Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and I am so very excited about today's episode, not only because I love today's guest and all the work that she's doing, but I am already in love with her business. Wait until you all hear about the great things that she's doing, and I know that by the end of today's session, you're going to want to go check out all the things she's doing. You're actually going to want to see it because this is an incredible brand that she's built that is truly changing the world for parents everywhere. And I don't say that lightly. Let me introduce you to today's guest. Her name is Lucie Thome. After more than a decade of leading brand strategies, Lucie, who's the founder of Bébé Foodie, experienced her most profound transformation not through a career shift, but through motherhood. Navigating feeding her baby, she quickly realized just how much guilt, pressure, and second guessing that parents carry even when they're doing their best. It wasn't a lack of information that made things hard. It was the lack of support that parents could actually trust. As a French mom raising her kids in the United States, Lucie saw how cultural differences shape feeding philosophies and how hard it is to find balanced, judgment-free guidance. That insight sparked the creation of Bébé Foodie, which is a French-inspired expert-built app. Expert-built is a key term there. You're going to hear about the team that Lucie has put together that helps feeding feel less like a test and more like a moment of connection. Since launching in February of this year, the app has doubled installs post-launch and has earned strong early traction with 25% of paying users choosing an annual plan. Before her launch, Lucie organically built a community of over 8,000 parents through waitlists and content. A passionate, engaged base now fuels word of mouth and continued growth, and that's why I'm so grateful that Lucie's here to share all the good things that she's doing. We're going to learn so much, so I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Lucie Thome. All right, Lucie, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. Enchanté. Welcome to the show. Bienvenue. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you and discovering this great podcast.
Heck yes, I so appreciate that. You already know, we talked off air, how much I love everything that you've built. I'm so in awe at your early traction, your growth plans, all the good stuff that you're doing. But we've got to kick things off with you taking us beyond the bio. Who's Lucie? How did you start doing all these cool things?
Yeah, for sure. So you already said quite a lot, but for context, I'm French, so you can hear from my accent. And nutrition has always been something deeply important to me. So moving into the US before I became a mom, I was already really passionate about cooking and finding the right ingredients. Even before I became a mom, I realized how much there was some kind of traction and attention to how we do it in Europe and especially in France. And the idea kind of came from me wanting to do something in the world of nutrition and talking to parents around me. I wasn't a mom back then. And there was clearly an interest in that specific area. There's already lots of content, lots of informations, and a lot of great experts. But one thing that was really missing was just a tool that make it easier. When I had my son, again, I love cooking, so it's never been an issue for me. But I realized that even if you do like cooking, it's very overwhelming because you realize that it's, another human being that you have to take care of. And you don't necessarily have all of the information right away on how to cut things, what to offer, what to give. So doing the research, you realize that all the other parents ask the exact same questions, and it's very overwhelming because even though you can find lots of information online, it's all over the place. You're going to have different opinions, different type of methods, and a lot of judgment, a lot of guilt. Everyone is kind of telling you what right way to feed your baby, but also sleep, play, raise your child, and you realize how much parenthood is a very, judgy place to be. So the idea kind of came like that, finding a way of providing parents not only the right information, so that's where the experts come into place. I grew a team of 8 different experts that are really making sure everything is studied and backed by the correct research and latest information. And then also making sure that our tone of voice is not make the parent feeling guilty. And what I mean by that is really providing a space for parents to be themselves in how they decide to parent their child. So whether you like to cook, whether you want to follow a certain method, whether you want to buy store-bought food, we're just gathering all that information into an app. So it took a while to bring that app to life, about 3 years. Just from like gathering all the correct content, making the research, building an entire timeline that was all meant to be personalized and customized by parents, and then putting it into an app. So yeah, now we're very happy to have this app, and you just log in, you can enter your information just the same way you would do with like a diet app or a fitness app. You personalize it to your family style and to your baby, and then you're entered into a timeline that's matching your baby's age and different milestones, and it's providing you with daily guidance, all again backed by experts. And then you have a database of over 175 foods and over 300 recipes for kind of like helping you in your everyday life.
Yes, I love that overview, Lucie. I'm so thankful for how much you've already shared just in that overview about your journey. But I'm going to be honest with you, what really stands out to me about that overview is you talk about obviously the birth of your son. And I, as someone who I talk to entrepreneurs for a living, and obviously a lot of our audience is both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. Lucie, a lot of times I hear becoming a parent as one of the stumbling blocks for why someone can't or won't become an entrepreneur. As they say, well, I'm a new parent. I've got all these responsibilities. You talked about the fact that now I'm responsible for another human being. Lucie, that seemed to be your catalyst, your spark, that you said, I'm going to do it because of this reason. Talk to us about that time period in your life and that decision that you made, because you have enough on your plate. Let's be honest.
That's very... I have a lot to say about this, by the way. So I'm going to see which direction I should go. I now have 2 children. Hugo, my first son, came, and to your point, was really like one of the starting points behind Bébé Foodie, because I realized how little, I would say, guilt-free content you had. Again, there's a lot of content, but there's not really any personalized, customized, come as you are type of tool. So he was a catalyst for this, for sure. One thing I learned, though, in my own journey as a mom and an entrepreneur is I preach all the parents to be themselves. And one very important detail on this is like a lot of information you find online for parents is not taking into consideration that you're a working parent. And in today's world, both parents work in usual, like in a household. Not to mention, of course, single parents. Some people have to do it all. But most of the time, both partners are working, and there is a big need of not only responsabilizing both parents in sharing the upbringing of the child, but also in ensuring that you don't feel like a failure because you're not cooking everything from scratch or following every single details or having like the latest, tools or things that are going to make the upbringing of your child better. So that was really that idea. And when I had my daughter, which was in the midst of bringing the platform to life, I was working all the time. And when she had to start salad, I couldn't feed her homemade food at all. And I started feeling guilty because I was just buying pouches. But then I had this reminder. I was like, Lucie, that's exactly what you were telling parents, to feel okay with this. And I'm kind of happy now to be living proof that both my kids had like very different approach to solid foods, very different kind of upbringing, because my second daughter was brought into this world where I was like really in the midst of being an entrepreneur. And they're both very good eater, and they're both different in their own ways. And I think we just put too much pressure on parents to do it all and kind of like give up on their own, I would say, career goals or just like what they want or lifestyle because they have a child. And that's something we advocate a lot for behind the scene, and through that our communication with Bébé Foodie, kind of like letting go of that guilt. Like, no, it's okay. Your child is not going to eat just mac and cheese if you don't feed them finger food by the time they're 9 months old, or you haven't introduced 100 different fruits and vegetables in the first 90 days, those kind of things that you can read, and I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, Lucie, I'm going to use that against you now as an entrepreneur, because I hope that follows through to your entrepreneurial career, but I also know it's easier said than done. It just sounds to me like you have such a positive attitude when it comes to your kids about just imperfections, and that's perfectly okay because nothing's perfect in life. And so with business, though, I feel like there's so many parallels between parenthood. I'm not a parent myself, but I see it with my brother. I'm an uncle. That's the easiest job on earth. I love being an uncle, but I see it with parenthood and entrepreneurship is that imperfect action is really the perfect plan. It's the perfect approach that we can take, and we have to be forgiving of ourselves, and we have to show ourselves grace. And the reason why I'm saying I'm using it against you is because a lot of people will go to Bébé Foodie, which we're dropping the links down below in the show notes, and they will see, Lucie, what looks like an incredibly polished product and brand. It is unbelievable what you've built, but I know that wasn't born overnight. You didn't wait for that perfect action, although that's what most people are going to see is an incredibly polished brand. What did that look like behind the scenes? Give us the reality of what it looked like to actually build it into what it is today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yes, let's face it. I'm a perfectionist. That is something that I came in agreement with, and that I had to learn to, kind of ignore as I grew my startup, because you can't be a perfectionist when you're an entrepreneur, and same thing goes to parenthood. You can't be a perfectionist. I'll go a little in details of like what brought us there, but before doing this, I'll just start by saying that there's no other way of learning in both parenthood and entrepreneurial journey by making mistakes and going a certain direction. Another thing is that I had to sacrifice certain things with my kids, and I had to sacrifice certain things with my business in order to be able to be both sometimes, not to mention also a wife, to my partner. But you do have to come with that peace of mind sometimes that you have choices to make, that it can't grow as fast as you want, that it can't look exactly as you want. And there's moments where it brings me joy to just take care of my children and put my business aside, but sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay. And I learned to accept this. So that's one thing. Now, when it comes to Bébé Foodie, it's been a very interesting journey. I quit my full-time job. I was talking about perfectionists, in the luxury world at LVMH, where everything was very well curated and always perfect, because there's no room for mistake in the luxury world. That was back in 2001. I had recently become a mom. I took a little bit of time to start thinking about it. That whole journey of building what you want before actually launching is very important. So, a lot of time curating the DNA of the brand, what message, what audience, doing some, surveys, user interviews, really going out there, understanding who am I talking to, what solutions am I trying to answer, to bring on the market, what are their challenges. And all this realization really brought Bébé Foodie to where it was. I had a few bumps on the road. The first website that I launched actually had nothing to do with the version you see today. I also really, really wanted to bring an app to life, and that was my vision from the beginning. I wanted that customizable, personalizable tool for parents. But it's a lot of money, and it's a lot of investment, both time, energy, money, everything, that I wasn't ready to take the leap for. So I started, looking into a web responsive platform, took every advice of every people around me, entrepreneur, other founders, other brands, investors, people that have been in the business of startup for a while. You take it all and you kind of make mistakes and discover a lot about yourself. That first platform that, became something. I mean, it was created. I never launched it. I sidetracked entirely. And after that, made me realize that if I wanted to really succeed and make my point, I needed to come with an app. So that's where the whole rebranding and the whole app building happened. So that was last year. Obviously, I'm passing some of the details. Another big important step in the upbringing was building a team of experts. And obviously when you start and you're just yourself and you come with an idea and you come to see an expert like, hey, do you want to start building an app with me? And you're going to have so much fame out of it if you want to be seen and you're going to be respected, but I have no money to offer you. It's hard, you don't find a lot of doctors or experts telling you yes from the get-go. But the more I progressed, the more serious I became about it, the more people I attracted. And now we have a team of 9 experts across pretty much every pediatric feeding areas, medical and like also nutrition. So it's something I'm very proud of, and learning to surround myself with the right people that share that vision, that want to see the product grow, that wanted to see coming to life is probably one of my biggest takeaway in my entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you have so much to be proud of, Lucie. And I mean, there's so many pieces of that we could pick to be proud of. The team that you've built, the parents that you serve around the world, the actual infrastructure that you've built from a business perspective. I'm so in awe of all of the things. But one thing that I think that you did that was so brilliant was you didn't wait for the website to be done. You didn't wait for the app to be done. You started building a community of over 8,000 parents, Lucie, and I would imagine that gave you so much more confidence, as well as, of course, the traction when it came to launching the app into the world. Talk to us about that community, because it just seems like that was so intentional of you saying, I want to serve these people and I'm going to build this community first.
Yeah, no, I would say one place of my background, one area of my background that make it easier, I would say, for the whole entrepreneurial building is marketing. I have marketing and branding background. Communication, networking is all kind of part of it. Getting out there and talking to people is what I've done from the beginning. And I've been on that mission in sharing what I wanted to build, talking to all those brands. So a good thing that helped us get there organically was surrounding myself with the good brand partners that already had the awareness and the visibility among parents. So I've done a lot of that even before having a product. Just going out there, going to an expo or writing an article for big brands or, doing a live on Instagram, a webinar, anything I could find, anyone that would be willing to partner with me and that of course matched the values of Bébé Foodie, I was giving it a chance. And that was for me the most successful way to really bring that traction before even having a product to offer. And also investing a lot on the content that I was giving for free. Because one thing you have to realize in that specific industry, of course, parenting app is a specific industry that's growing enormously. Now, a lot of parents rely on app because who is having kids right now and consuming apps is millennials and Gen Zs, and they want an app for everything. So parenthood is not different, obviously. But one thing you can't really compete with is the amount of information that parents can find. So if you don't offer already, I would say for free, that advice, that guidance, it's going to be hard to convince parents that they can trust you. So newsletter, blog, I invested a lot of time on SEO and really making sure that when there's a search or when someone is looking for advice, there is an answer that is accessible for parents. So all that work is also what helps Bébé Foodie kind of have that credibility, authenticity, and just presence on the market before we launch the app.
Yeah, so well said. As a content creator myself, knowing that we have over 1,200 episodes for people to pull knowledge from, and that's part of what we enjoy the most behind the scenes at the show is when listeners reach out and they say, I need help with sales, I need help with marketing, I need help with branding. I mean, we've got so many free resources for them to access that we've become someone that a lot of people turn to in those times of need. So that's why in a world where content is being saturated with AI and all these other things, or maybe content is becoming a lost art, Lucie, I love how much you as a parent, someone inside of your own community, is building that trust and building resources for other parents. So huge kudos to you. Although now that I've said those 2 letters, AI, we have to go there. How's AI factoring into your industry, your app, the solutions that Bébé Foodie brings to the marketplace? So curious to hear about that.
Yeah, so it's clearly on I would say, the iteration number 2 of the app. We're already talking about it. We already have a full list of AI driven features that we want to implement. I won't go too much in detail in there, but again, we have a giant database of recipes, and for me, there's a lot to do. There's a lot we can do AI wise with this, even in the way parents kind of like approach that daily guidance meal plan. I'm thinking grocery list. I'm thinking what to give next, gathering kind of like feedbacks, like whatever information you feed about your baby that kind of drive and give you suggestions for later meal to introduce and other food to introduce. There's a lot we can do. And it's clearly something that originally I had mapped out for a little bit later just to get more feedback on that MVP. But I do think that we want to see it sooner than later. So we're working towards it for implementation in 2026 with more AI features just to make it even more personalizable, customizable, and feeding the parents' lifestyle is the goal. Really using AI in that direction, make their life easier when they approach solid foods at the beginning with a young baby. And then as the baby gets older, really utilizing our app to find inspiration and relieve a little bit their daily life, because at the end of the day you learn what to feed your baby, but there's one thing that doesn't go away is having to make meals for the family 3 times a day.
Yeah, Lucie, that leads me to, I guess this is a little bit part philosophical, part strategic question. Is I would imagine that the way that technology is today, and also you as a fellow entrepreneur, you probably have so many ideas about what you want to do both now and long into the future. What's your executive filter look like when you map out all the things that you could be doing and that you want to be doing? How do you possibly make sense of it all, inject a little bit of patience into it, and really make those strategic decisions of here's what we're going to do today, here's what we're going to focus on, here's the bare essentials for us to serve our community, and then here's what we're going to shelve for later? How do you manage that?
The biggest, I would say, driver obviously is money. If you don't have the money, it's hard to put everything into practice or into life. We're fundraising right now, so there's obviously we already fundraised 150K, and we're fundraising another 500K, and that's obviously going to help to bring a lot of those features to life. Now, what we do and how I select how to utilize the money that we do have. The number one priority is the team. It always is the team. Like, I prioritize all the brains, all the strategists in my business, and obviously executives. But I do have a strong both marketing and product team that helps me bring all of that, future iterations and strategy to life. And then after that, in terms of marketing, obviously you want to try it all. You want to do ads. You want to spend a lot of money pretty much in every single channel you can think of, like a huge PR stunt or like things like that. But really, at the beginning, when you have an MVP, the only thing you want to really focus on is concrete action. The more organic possible, the more hands-on. It does require a lot of work from everyone and from you as a founder, obviously. But it really is the only thing that turns the needle, that moves the needle. Like I want to say, like events, influencers, like bringing ambassadors, talking to both, micro, nano influencers, or even like the first users. So many of them want to help. So many of them that are current users and love your product will be your best advocates. Testimonials. We have a super user. She's a mom of a baby. It's her first baby. The things she told us during interviews are just gold, just like I opened your app and I immediately felt at ease. It's answering all the questions before I even think of them. It's helping me with my everyday grocery list. I know exactly what I want to give my baby and I don't have to overthink it. I tried other apps, but you really brought that calm that I needed in parenthood. All of those things that they say, you turn it into a whole newsletter. You use it through your social. You make a whole maybe Q&A article. Maybe you even interview her and do it, turn it into a boosted ad if that's something you want to do. But that's where you're going to find the gold at the beginning, is really utilizing what you have and going out there, meeting people, talking about it, is really what at the beginning I would say help. invest in your time and kind of like decide areas you want to focus on. And then another thing, obviously, I won't say it enough, but I said it already, SEO for us is really key. So we have built an entire content strategy and schedule. So we have like all of the experts working on it and new content being created every week. And that really feeds our entire content strategy through LinkedIn, Instagram, newsletter, every other places we can really communicate, and has like that just entire marketing strategy around what we build in terms of content.
Woof, Lucie, I feel like you just dropped so much entrepreneurial strategic knowledge on us right there. Listeners, did you catch that? We so frequently in the entrepreneurial and business world talk about understanding your customer, but Lucie just showed us in real time how she will take customer interactions and it will drive her marketing. It will drive the way that her business and brand gets developed and the way that it shows up in the world. So Lucie, I'm so appreciative of those insights. I knew that time would fly by with you, but I want to squeeze in 2 final questions, because the first one, it's a bit selfish of me, because I will transparently tell you that I'm the son of an immigrant mom, and being a first generation American, it factors so much into the way that I see the world. It factors a lot into my own personal mindset and belief. And a lot of times I love interviewing fellow either first generation immigrant entrepreneurs or immigrant entrepreneurs like yourself in your own right. How has that immigrant mindset played into the way that you view entrepreneurship and possibility and collaboration? And I'm so curious to hear that part of your story.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting question. Obviously, the French side is fueling a lot of things that we do at Bébé Foodie, just from the name, but also, you know, in terms of the content that we provide. 2 things to that. In terms of personal life and upbringing, raising my children here makes me realize how you have to. There's a lot of things you can do in taking the best of both worlds, right? A little bit of the French world and a little bit of the American world, and making it something that you think is fitted. And I came to a realization where when I come back to France and I see my friends or family, they don't see me as a French anymore because I'm way too American for them. But I've never fully American here. So you grow being like this, like in between all the time. But it's okay. I'm okay with this. I have my own identity, and I decided not to make it like a weakness or something I'm like very conscious of, but more like a strength. And when it comes to business, obviously I'm very self-conscious of my accent and just like how I come up to people. But trust me, after 15 years in the US, again, it fly right by you and you make it your own identity. And it's kind of like, yeah, I am who I am, and it's my strengths, and I'm different, and that's how I stand out. So that's how I approach it. And I think it's a gigantic quality and like opportunity for my kids to be able to have both culture infused in everything that they do, just from the language, of course, but the approach, not to mention they get to like spend all their vacation at their grandparents' house in France. So that's also a pretty big advantage.
Yes, I love that. And it shines through in so much that you do. It just seems to me like you view all the depth and breadth of possibilities, and it shines through in the brand that you've built, the way that you serve your clients and your users. And I really love the way that you talk about that. So Lucie, with that in mind, I teased you off air that I have no idea how you're going to pick one piece of advice for our listeners today, but that's where we are now. And you've dropped so much on us already, but knowing that our audience is both those wantrepreneurs and those entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys, and knowing that you're one of us, you're a fellow entrepreneur who's doing it, who's got big growth plans, and you're serving people all over the world, what's that one piece of advice that you want to leave them with today?
Okay, yeah, I touched a bit on this, but almost nothing. So that's the one I'm picking. I'm going to talk about choosing your people. It's been both a lot of mistake I've done in the past and a lot of learning in understanding who I should surround myself with. And what I mean by that is not looking for the best experts when, you know, trying to work with someone and collaborate with someone that knows everything. Obviously, you want them to know what they're doing and fill a gap in your business. But one thing I realized is they have to meet you somewhere in terms of value. For example, I'm someone who is very much into a follow-up, follow-through type of relationship. It's okay if something doesn't come off time. It's okay if you're late at a meeting or things like that. But if you don't tell me, or if you don't give me a little bit of visibility on this, I'm going to go nuts and I'm not going to be able to focus on anything else, and it's going to completely poison the relationship. And I can't work with people like that. And it's okay. I just can't work with people like that. Then I shouldn't surround myself with people like that. I need to be around people that are going to meet me in my values where I am. And learning that when you work with people, but mostly in the hiring process, is probably one of the biggest advice, I think, because not everyone is born with HR skills from the get-go. And as an entrepreneur, you have to wear so many hats. And that's one of them. So yeah, definitely learn who you are as a person. What are your values? What are the non-negotiable? And see if you can detect that in people before hiring them or moving to the next step of the relationship with them.
Yes, it's easy advice to give, hard advice for all of us to take. So listeners, take this advice from Lucie. A lot of it starts with self-introspection, which means carving out that time with all the hats that we have to wear, but it really starts with that level of self-awareness. So I love that advice for our listeners, Lucie. I'm also so excited for people to check out your business and actually see it with their own eyes. I feel like I've tooted the horn so much about the brand that you've built and the incredible offerings that you have for parents everywhere at all different stages of their child's development. So drop those links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Yeah, so first of all, the app can be found on the App Store. So you just type Bébé Foodie and you'll find it. Everything that you need to learn about us, plus all of our free resources, blogs, etc., information about team, is on bebe-foodie.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Lucie Thome, and then our Instagram is babyfoodie_. We have lots of, real talk, humor, and feeding and parenting tips. So if you're a parent and want to get some inspiration, definitely follow us.
Yes, and listeners, you already know the drill. We're making it as easy as possible for you to find all of those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode, especially if you're on the go and you think to yourself, I want to remember these links. It's okay. It's down below in the show notes. You can also get a 7-day free trial of Bébé Foodie. So if you want to see the magic for yourself, don't be shy in checking out those links. Otherwise, Lucie, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian.